How can we always speak in English? Well, if you always want to speak in English, use the word always. Always refer to every single time without a miss. Well, in today's session, it is going to be frequencies. What do you understand by the term frequencies? Well, the gap between two events. Whenever there is no gap between events and every time you behave in a certain manner, you always use the word always in that case. I always worship God in the morning hours. I always play cricket. I always chat with friends. I always tell the truth. I always want to sit at the back row in a movie hall. So once you start using this one word always, it is going to give value to your English, because you will start thinking, what are the things that you do always? What are the things that you keep on doing every single time? So things that you do every single time must be now called as always, and every time you use this word always, remember the next word is a verb. I always sit, I always stand, I always walk. And if you do not always walk, if you do not do it every time, and if you miss a couple of times only, then you can still call it usually. For example, I always wake up early in the morning. That means without a miss, be it any day, be it my birthday, be it an anniversary of mine, be it my kid's birthday, be it an examination, be it not an examination, I always wake up early in the morning, but I usually go for a walk. So I do miss a morning walk on days. So if I do miss, then I can say I usually go for a morning walk. Now this frequency has to get lower, right? So we have started from an extreme frequency always, then we step down a little and we read the word usually. Now there is another word in Hindi, prayah, that means on many cases. So you say the word often. So I always wake up early in the morning. I usually take breakfast. I often take breakfast with my soulmate, with my wife. So what otherwise do you do? Maybe at times I have to take my breakfast in the office. The other times I have to take breakfast elsewhere. So ultimately, this degree is reducing. Now, what should come after often is occasionally. So you decide that, on few occasions, on few ceremonies, or on few incidents, if they happen, I do this. For example, you do what? Some people booze, that means they take liquor. So they take liquor. So if they take liquor, then ultimately they take liquor occasionally. This is how they say that. For example, they take liquor on marriage, they take liquor on a certain ceremony, they take liquor when they're with their besties and stuff like that. So ultimately there are few things that you do occasionally. For example, I occasionally drive my car. So if you are always ridden in a chauffeur-driven car or driver-driven car, then occasionally you drive your own car. The day you want to really drive your own wife, the day you want to drive your kids for a long drive or stuff like that, those are the occasions that you want to mark for I occasionally drive my car. Now let's get going. When you do not do things occasionally, then you step on to a further lower degree, and this is called as rarely. Generally, things that are bad, generally things that you do not want to get associated with, but still you happen to do them, but still it sometimes do stick with you, then you say rarely, such as, I rarely have to tell a lie. I rarely have to tell a lie. I rarely miss my school bus. If you are a student who takes up school every time using the school bus, then rarely you even have to miss the school bus. So rarely is like, I rarely fall ill, right? I rarely complained. And if you are a college graduate, or if you are somebody who's pursuing a degree course, then you can say, I rarely miss my homework. I rarely miss my project. I rarely miss my group discussions. I rarely miss my bus, my train. Okay? And what is there after rare? Because rare is already very less in number, or kind of very, very low in number. But there is a frequency that follows rarely, and that frequency is seldom. And what do you mean by seldom? In Hindi, you say na ke barabar. For example, barking dog seldom bites. This is a proverb. right? In Hindi you say जो जो गरजते हैं वो बरसते नहीं. So you see here, जो गरजते हैं वो बरसते नहीं. And then in English you are saying barking dog seldom bites. So are you saying that it may bite? No, it may not bite. The fact is, seldom should be understood as next to no. It's just that you do not want to say the word no, so you are using the word seldom. So next time you have this word seldom written anywhere, please start using your brains that maybe the guy is indicating that he doesn't do this. For example, I seldom tell a lie. That means this guy is saying that he does not tell a lie. It's just that he just doesn't want to sound so concrete in his speech. So he's saying seldom. So seldom is a very, very negate kind of a frequency where nearly no is what you're saying. And finally, you say, I never. For example, I never pick a joke on my friends. I never pick a joke on God name, and this is a bad habit also. You should not make jokes on God names. And I never step ahead of my elder brother. So, this could be a very good habit. So, generally, there are values and virtues. So, we don't step ahead of our elder brothers. We allow the elder brother to walk in front. Or you generally don't step up on the feet of others. So, sometimes, what happens? There are a lot of people who step up on the feet of other people. Now, altogether in these frequencies, we've missed on two very important frequencies. One is sometimes. Now, this is one of the usual English word. So, you're supposed to use this word if you want to really become a sound and a great speaker of English. Say, sometimes I do this, the other times I don't. So sometimes is a beautiful English word, beautiful English frequency. You should use the term sometimes and become great champion of your speech. And the next and the last word of frequency today is mostly. Now I have put the sign of a star to suggest that this is not a part of your frequency, but this is kind of an adjective. For example, you're mostly my good friend. So, or you're mostly, my favorite person or my favorite partner for any of my act. So when you say mostly, right, it is very similar to usually, but it is not usually. So these are the two last words that I wanted to talk out to you, friends. One is sometimes, and next is mostly. If you use mostly, or if you use sometimes, it is very likely that you will become quite good in English. Now let's just try out a few sentences. I wake up early in the morning. Now this is an every time activity. So where do you want to use the word I always wake up early in the morning? So you're going to add here immediately before the word wake up. Why? Because as I said that the frequency has to be used before the action word. So what's the action? I wake up. So I always wake up early in the morning. I would love to visit a garden. So how frequently would you love to visit a garden? Some people don't like garden at all. Some people love garden. So you could be anybody. Maybe you don't love garden. So what would you say? I rarely would love to visit a garden. Or if you are on the contrary someone who really would love to visit a garden, but it's not possible every time. So you say, I usually love to visit a garden. Similarly, I wish to eat a pizza. How frequently do you wish to eat a pizza? Now, there are people who do not understand the dough of pizza, and they know the ill effects of pizza, and they know that if it's not properly baked, it's kind of a stale food. So if you are somebody who's away from stale food, what would you say? I rarely would wish to eat a pizza, or I rarely wish to eat a pizza, or I usually wish to eat a pizza. I truly want to sit and talk for hours. So how much truly do you want to sit and talk for hours? How often do you want to do that? So I often want to sit and talk for hours. Often means prayaha, right? Now, I hate fast road and a lot of traffic. So how much do you hate? I always hate busy road. I always hate a lot of traffic. Certainly, but these days, do you have an escape from all these things? So I rarely find a free road. Now that's interesting. So what's happening? Your brain would start working. So please use these frequencies to trigger your brain to talk in English, because the more you interact through these frequencies, the easier it becomes. I pray to God. Now, I think most of you would say, I always pray to God. And somebody who is an atheist would say, I never pray to God. So it's not about what do you do. It's only about whether you use frequencies to explain how do you do things. I love to talk to strangers. I sometimes love to talk to strangers. I mostly love to talk to strangers. I rarely love to talk to strangers. I seldom love to talk to strangers. So, these days, kids, parents do not allow their kids to even talk to strangers. So what do you say? If you are that kid, and your upbringing was in that environment, and you grew up, and then ultimately you started saying, I seldom talk to strangers, and I have to deliver goods on time. I always have to deliver goods on time. Well, in this session, we have really come across a great deal of frequencies. Let's quickly, do a quick revision. What's the first degree? Always, without a miss. Second is usual. Third is often, right? After often, you can say sometimes, you can say mostly, but generally what is written in the degree column for you is occasionally. After occasionally came rarely. After rarely came seldom, and then never. Please use these degrees and start validating your English using these degrees of frequencies and just improve your English as good as possible. Now let's reach out to the time of activity. So it is activity time. Wow, I have learned. So what's the activity? You have to give a write-up about an incident in which you will use frequency terms. So you have to give a write-up, right, about frequency terms. The length must be 15 sentences or 150 words. It could be 90 words if it is 15 sentences, and there are short sentences. If there are longer sentences, then certainly it is going to reach anyways about 150 words. Well, with this note, I sign off. Thank you.